um, based on uh, the evidence that is public facing. It would really surprise me. It might get past a preliminary hearing. They have to have it. If they, I just looked it up. If the defendant's in custody, 14 days. If the defendant's not in custody, 21 days. After the preliminary hearing phase, then the the uh, the government has to provide discovery, and they've got to turn over certain information, um, so that the defendant's attorneys can look at the evidence and consider whether or not they can they have evidence that would support each and every element of the crime. And if they don't have the evidence, then the attorneys will file a motion to dismiss on that the evidence is lacking for one or more of the elements of the crime. And again, they've got to prove intent with this. 8647. What the hell does that mean? 86. Somebody. It's an old term. Means throw the guy out, throw the bum out. And saying distasteful things for a comedian. Yeah, a lot of comedians say distasteful things. Did you like Don Rickles or Buddy Hackett or any number of other
Kathy Griffin cut off Trump's head at a dog.
Yeah, that was that, but that wasn't a threat.
Really disgusting.
It's disgusting, but it's not a threat, and it's within her rights to do that. It might have been in bad taste. Most people would say so, but that's not a threat. Maybe she should be indicted. Was that within 5 years? May have been. I don't know. I didn't look it up. But it just doesn't. I don't think this is going to pass the laugh test in front of a federal judge when they try to prove intent. And they're not going to be able to call Mr. Comey as on cross-examination because he's got the right to remain silent. So they have to put on evidence as to each and every element of the case. And then they've got to turn over discovery, and then defense counsel gets a chance to look at, and the defendant, who's a lawyer, gets a chance to look at what the evidence proves. And I think this thing will get tossed either at the preliminary hearing or on a motion. And, it seems to be, part of Trump's MO of vindictive behavior. That's how I read it. You can disagree with me, that's fine.
Do you see this as an attack on the First Amendment, and what about the Kimmel situation?
Well, first of all, I didn't watch the Kimmel joke, but if Kimmel said something rude or offensive, that's his right. Did he threaten anybody? No. And should the president be dictating, who gets fired from different networks? Should he be meddling?
Call for it, but the question at hand is whether, if in fact there's a cause and effect here, which they're denying, the FCC ought to be investigating the ABC-owned television stations for violation of DEI, anti-DEI
policy. It demands analysis unconditional.
With respect to what?
If she refuses,
they're claiming that the FCC
You're a rational man.
So I flatter myself.
prematurely,
We have a
in other
chance
words,
here.
not
Perhaps our
based
last
on
chance to avoid
schedule.
carnage.
now
Yes.
investigating,
I don't
now
want to see this
investigating whether
alive.
television
Well,
stations
not
that
the
are
present
owned by
side.
ABC
Want
should
to
be stripped of their
help me save this city.
license for violation of the
Cersei
prohibition
is queen
of
of the Seven Kingdoms. By the subject.
that the has been instilled by this administration.
These are privately owned stations, are they
We
not?
understand
You're
nothing
not allowed
of
to
the
hire
sort.
the people
Your
you want.
queen's
You're not allowed
last
to hire
dragon is
black
one.
people, gay
Your
people,
art is
women.
battle-weary and
Well,
What the hell's going on?
Well,
on ours.
I'm asking
Been
whether
reinforced
this
with
is
the
an
government.
attack if in fact there's a cause and effect.
Well, first of all,
If it's because of Kimmel that they're doing this, not whether they have a case against them or not, or a right to do it. If in fact they feel that they're violating the regulations prohibiting DEI.
I show them the numbers, the charts, the whole truth right here in this room. It does not keep talking about game shows.
Whether this is, if in fact because of what Kimmel joked,
God bless America!
an attack on Christian.
I mean, if that can be proven to be their motivation because of the Kimmel jokes, yeah, that would be a suppression of free speech and the freedom to tell a bad joke, to tell a distasteful joke, to say distasteful things. Distasteful things are not threats. They some people think they're funny, some people think they're not. Some people think Trump's threats of violence are funny. Trump threatens violence all the time. He's repeatedly done this on camera. So you don't need to. You can just play. I found a stream of his videos on Twitter. With all the things where he's talking about, oh, shoot him, shoot this one, shoot that one. Yeah, that's good. They'll be dead. Things along those lines. So Trump, the calls, the rhetorical calls for violence come out of the mouth of Donald J. Trump. And he's done this repeatedly. He did this at one of his rallies where somebody was heckling him, and he said, throw the bum out, beat them up. I forget if it was in, I think it was in his, I can't remember, I think it was in his first term or in his first run for the presidency.
This is what the heart of the Kabbalah is.
He acts like a mafia boss in the way he issues his calls to beat people up and throw them out, and I believe this was at a public event. But it doesn't even matter. Trump calls for violence many times, and there's videotape that proves it. So, does it suppress free speech to screw around with the people that regulate broadcasting because you don't like what people say? Of course, that would be a roundabout way to suppress free speech. But you have to prove that was the intent. And I think it's just a waste of the time of the agency and a waste of the taxpayer money to do this. It's just warrantless.
So to refresh your memory, it was not at a rally. It happened numerous times. And I will acknowledge that I just used AI to find these citations. Cedar Rapids, Iowa rally on February the 1st, 2016. Trump told supporters to knock the crap out of anyone getting ready to throw a tomato and promise to pay their legal bills. February 22nd, 2016, at a Las Vegas rally, Trump said of a protester being escorted out, "I'd like to punch him in the face." He lamented that in the good old days, such people would be carried out on a stretcher. Following an incident where a Black Lives Matter protester was assaulted at an Alabama rally in November 2015, Trump stated the next day, maybe he should have been roughed up. More recently, at a Coachella, California rally on October 12, 2024, this is from Time magazine, Trump reacted to a woman heckling him by saying she should go back home to mommy and that she gets the hell knocked out of her by her parents. So, yeah, you're right, except it wasn't just one time, it was...
Yeah, I mean, the videos that I saw about the calls for people to tone back down the calls for violence played numerous clips of Trump in various circumstances calling for violence. So, that is his MO. That's what he thinks a commander-in-chief, somebody that represents the people of the United States of America, all the people, that's what he thinks is appropriate behavior. So it's ridiculous for him to take umbrage at a lot of things but hypocrisy is nothing new.
Thank you, William. Folks, we're here Monday through Friday from 5 o'clock New York time, so until 5 o'clock New York time.
All right, no.
What did I say when I came on mute?
Because what?
There was no queue. There was no queue, and I said no one's calling.
Adjudicating.
Don't. Sorry, Dia, PTR.
Listen.
Look at my.
I see where she asked to be in the queue.
One second,
Yeah,
one second,
right
one
after
second,
you
one second, guys,
wrote
one
for
second,
you,
one second, one second. When I asked Dawn.
I'm disappointed.
Yes, but.
Go ahead, Nate.
I don't understand why y'all going so hard for me to not speak.
When I asked Dawn,
Carry on.
Dawn, what is the queue? About 5 or 10 minutes?
Come on, stop me there.
There's no
Yeah.
Wait, he could us? We
Yeah,
can't do
that's
that?
fine.
Can I please say
If you
something?
feel
I
like
just wanna,
it's
I did not tell you what you're mad.
I think that, you characterizing it as hoops when it was me trying to be as clear as possible, from a legal standpoint, how this was perfectly acceptable, and it is acceptable to conservatives too.
I mean, if you'd have heard the first half of this room, I argued almost exactly your point. Not to the extent that I feel like they actually have any kind of case against Comey, because I don't think we'll win, and I think it's a waste of resources. But to the point that, was there a legitimate reason for this indictment to even be issued? And I went through the whole precedents and why they were able to actually get the indictment issued. I still don't think it's winnable. I don't think it's close to being winnable.
Serendipity. So ambiguous free speech is still protected under the law. You'd have to make a clear and present threat that you're going to kill the president. That is vastly different than what Comey did. Under conservatism, we would adhere to that principle, that foundational pillar that exists after the platform that all men should be judged equally under the law. That's laid. Then that pillar stands with that First Amendment, and it states that you cannot just stretch ambiguous free speech, which this
Correct.
would be, into fit a narrative that you wanted to because you dislike the person.
And there are many definitions around a political rhetoric as well, not being condemnable under the protection of free speech.
Fight like hell. Fight like hell.
What they have in their favor is the Barnes case in 2003, in which they determined that all of the things that you've mentioned up to this point fall under the objective prong of the charges, but the court does consider a subjective prong of the charges, and that is it reasonable to assume that by virtue of posting what he posted, he could make the intended target feel as though they were in jeopardy from bodily harm? That is why they got the indictment, because there is this subjective component of case precedent that the Supreme Court will also use in consideration. They take the words, they take the context, they take whether or not he deleted it, which he did. They take all of this subjective bullshit into account too. And so there is this whole subjective component of, is it reasonable to assume that Trump could have felt threatened in any way, shape, or form by his post? And if that is the case, then he's not protected under free speech, according to Supreme Court precedent with I think it was Victoria and Barnes case in 2003.
No intent.
That was the point that I made earlier.
Yeah, Comey's comments were after the first assassination.
Even if the poster's intent was the case, the 2003 case said, even if the poster's intent was not to actually perform the harm themselves. And so this is the whole reason that the indictment got passed down, is this subjective prong of what the Supreme Court considers. This is why he was indicted. This is the smidge of minimal chance that, this thing even makes it to court and isn't dismissed on motions based on the First Amendment right. But is this whole subjective component, because that case said even he didn't have intent to commit the harm himself. If he could reasonably assume that the posting of the picture made his target feel threatened from of bodily harm or death, then he is in violation.
And all that by 4 numbers?
Hold on. I called after Deputy Green. So I don't know how many remember, but I do. I think it was Chuck Schumer who was on one of the mainstream media interviews after Trump was severely critical of the alphabet agencies. Trump said he didn't believe that they were being run effectively and that they had some corruption that needed to be addressed. And Chuck Schumer, I think it was Chuck Schumer's quote was, when you come up against the alphabet agencies,
Chuck Schumer on MSNBC.
Damn, H-Head, got it. You do it. What was the quote, H-Head?
He was like saying like if we come up to this alphabet
Was
agency,
it worth interrupting me?
they have like 101 ways to come after you.
They have 6 ways to Sunday of getting back at you. They have 6 ways to Sunday. Popular American expression, it means that they will retaliate. And James Comey was part of the alphabet agency. You can make the argument that Trump felt threatened. Even though he's used to.
I think it would just be a lot easier to respect these perspectives if you guys would just say what you really want to say, which is like, fuck the Constitution, we want to get even, burn them all.
Wait, Stilgart, wait. I want to clarify. I do not support
Go
Comey
after
being
you
indicted.
too.
Okay, I do not support Comey being indicted, and I don't think that the majority. There's at least
No,
one
I
in here
think
that
Dips,
does
you've
support
made
it.
that clear. I think it's Monica now that are dancing around.
That was more for Sam's reference because he directed his comment straight at me at 4-digit numbers. I do not support the indictment of Comey. I don't think he's indicted. I'm simply making the case for why they were able to get the indictment in the first place.
And I don't think that he should have been indicted.
If you die on the hill of seashells, you're writing a blank check for the next Democratic administration to do this exact same thing.
So look at the court case Virginia versus Black. And this was over cross-burning. And the courts did...
That's the case. That's the precedent case.
Yeah, okay. So cross-burning can be considered a threat to intimidation or harm. Is it always the case? No. You can actually go ahead and do this, and you can set up a cross, and as long as there's not a reckless element or a conspiratorial or a threat to harm in that, or damage, obviously, to somebody's private property, then this is perfectly legal. You can do this. It's not anything different. So you have
Do
right
it
here.
in somebody else's yard without.
That's illegal. That's the thing, and it's an infringement on that. But that falls under a different, because that was articulated in that case. So at the end of this, when you look at that precedent and saying here we have to be subjected to freaking morons burning crosses. And you may not like it. I may think it's really ridiculous and it's harmful and it's intimidating and it has those. It's still protected free speech as long as it's not infringement on somebody's personal space, harm, or property. Comey can do this. By every precedent, he can do it because, again, you have to prove that he was going to be reckless, conspiratorial, and direct harm to somebody that is sitting in that office. And that's not going to go over well. It's just, you have a long road to do it, and this is optics at best, and shitty optics. It's not a win. It's actually a setback, which takes away the meaning of what just happened in that fucking Hilton hotel. It just strips everything away.
Well, the thing is, like, there's a long road of, like, the Supreme Court overturning the decisions. Like, we can go Black vs. Board of Education, we can go versus Loving vs. Virginia. I can name, like, 100 other cases that the Supreme Court has overturned. So it's just, like, that's what you're dealing with currently at the moment. But what makes you think, I want to ask Brad this question, what makes you think that a future Supreme Court doesn't overturn these decisions? Why are you so confident about this?
Why would they overturn it when they actually argued the
Yeah,
fact
but
that
they
it was
could overturn it. I mean, like, you know, like.
they
took
could?
a-
I mean, I suppose I'd be against it.
The Dobbs decision took 50 years. It could get overturned. What makes you think you're right about it, though?
The Dobbs decision has nothing to do with this case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the Supreme Court overturns their precedents all the time.
But
I'm not
what makes
discounting
you think?
Cheek, we can make all manner of premonitions into the future as to what may or may not happen with the Constitution. But the fact of the matter is it's pretty clear that at least a majority of the room feels that it would be a bastardization of the Constitution. It would be disrespectful to the First Amendment to suggest that we should indict and criminally charge and potentially jail a man over seashells.
Yeah, but why not, bro? They criminally charged President Trump. They searched his house.
There's whataboutism. There's whataboutism is exactly what the law is not supposed to engage in.
Wait. You asked me a question. They searched through his house. They did everything. They violated so many constitutional rights that he had to do. And what they did to the January 6 people committed suicide over January 6. A hoax, terrible thing that happened to these people. They became bankrupt. They lost every single thing. And then now you're trying to sit here and be like, oh, well, and now you're sitting here and be like, oh, well, you know what? You know, it's terrible what happened, but anyway, we're going to just move on with it. No, bro. You have to make the fear of death in these people in their eyes. So people like Comey can't go ahead and put hoaxes in other people's lives. People committed suicide over January 6th, still God.
That wasn't
They
Comey,
died.
though.
They fucking died and they're not coming back. They fucking died. Wait a second. People fucking died over. Wait. Enough. Wait a second. Just let me land. You can talk all you want.
You're stacking.
Let me go
Enough.
after you.
I don't care if I'm an American or not. All
I'm
I'm trying
saying
to say,
about you being an
people,
American is that you're stacking.
Enough. Stop talking. You can speak all you want. People committed suicide over false charges.
Most annoying human in the
And the
world.
only reason they got reprieve is because President Trump happened to win the election. And if President Trump lost the fucking election, God forbid what would have happened to those people, you know? And you know what happened? President Biden, he's the first president in the history of the United States that did pass pardons from like 2014 and everything and future pardons.
Cheek.
So what the hell?
You're gonna have to land this plane. You've added 17 addendums to one singular point.
Add to the conversation.
You're about to be done. Okay, let me explain something really clearly to you.
No, enough. Don't abuse your vote fucking power.
You're filibustering.
You gotta let him speak.
Listen, you're
filibustering.
filibustering. Look, and we can keep doing
Your
this.
fucking
We can keep
power,
doing this.
bro.
We can keep
Don't
doing this.
do this. Let people finish.
Sir,
All
I
I'm
don't
gonna say,
need.
he did. He did
Let's finish.
Before you finish, can you pause for a moment? Let me break out my legal pad and a pen so I can write down each and every one of the points you've made so I can have time to respond to them.
Enough. Stop talking.
Jesus
I've
Christ.
been done a long time ago. I just keep talking for no goddamn fuck.
Hey, check, you get 60 seconds.
60.
Thank you very much.
6.
President Biden was the first ever president in the history of the United States to do claim to pardons and everything else like that. Why? Because he led a corrupt regime. People in January 6th, they died. They committed suicide. They got bankrupted. The state abused them. The United States abused these people. The United States killed these people. And they did the most horrific, fucked up shit to these people ever in the history of the United States. And then when I hear it's a constitution, everything else like that, I don't want to hear about the fucking constitution. They put 60% of the FBI's informants onto these people. Why? Because they wanted these people
15
to die.
seconds.
And I know, love. And they wanted to kill themselves. All I want to say is, you killed your own people. I don't want to hear shit about abusing powers of the executive branch. And I'm done.
And let me go
I heard you the first time, Alan. Thank you. Listen. Cheek, I'm going to respond to the moment in which you careened off the highway of rationale and nothing else. Because I am not presently equipped with a pen to have heard all 15 of your grievances and address them individually. Next time, I'd prefer we do them maybe 2 at a time if you can manage. Thank you. The moment you call into question, the moment you submit any other case, any other legal proceeding in regard to this particular case, as a rationale as to why you do something or wish something to be done or why you think something should happen, unless those cases are directly related to this case by legal precedent, you are absolutely participating in whataboutism. You're explaining to me why I think we should wipe our asses with the Constitution of the United States simply for the opportunity to get even over some fucking seashells. This is a lesson in how to be succinct, Cheek. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Also serious.
Yeah, add me after this too, Stilgar.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a courtroom.
So people keep focusing on the fact that they were seashells. It doesn't matter. You could write someone in crayon. The correspondence didn't. That should could have written it in crayon. It's not. That is irrelevant. It is the meaning of the statement that matters. Number one. Number two. Let's remember. Trump was not indicted illegally. They followed court procedures. They got a judge. They got warrants.
They got a mugshot.
All of that was done through the legal system. But Stilgar, you said it. Why don't we just admit that we want to throw away the Constitution? No. Why don't you say that you're just too afraid to use the Constitution for the reason it was intended to be used, and you're too scared of being seen as having any kind of backbone at all? Why don't we just say that? And to the other charge of, well, this isn't what conservatives are really about. Well, if the quote real conservatives are too much of a pussy to actually use the Constitution to their advantage, well, I think it's time for them to retire their badges and go sit in an old age home like everyone's always telling me I should do, and sit this one out and let the real men show them how it's done.
Using it is one thing, misusing it.
Hold on, I'm after this one, Marshall. I'm gonna pack this up.
I got it.
No, I got it.
Guys,
I got it.
we had a little bit of a queue going. I am going to give Alan's submission the response it deserves by not responding to it at all, and I'm going to hand it to Viking. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the problem when you have liberals that cross over into the Conservative Party and haven't been around a long time. They absolutely want to utilize the same fucking style of governance, just they want to call it under Team Red. And this is a massive problem with conservatives and Republicans. We would never agree to this. We don't agree to this. Like, I don't like what Comey said. I don't like his little fucking picture. I don't like the fucking man, period. I think he's a fucking tool. I think he's an idiot. I think he's incompetent, as evidenced by him handling the Steele dossier, by his investigation of Trump, by him orchestrating and going along with the Obama administration and being complicit without coming forth to Congress saying, hey, I know you're saying Obama here, but he's telling me to go do this, and this is against the constitutional norms. This needs to be checked. This power needs to be checked. So there's a lot of issues. But what you want to hang your hat on is none of that issues. None of those. We want to do it over what Stilgar says, seashells painted or moved in an 86. You don't even know if he actually did it or if he came across the beach and they were there. You still don't know that. You don't even have those final determinations. You don't have all the facts. But you're cheering this on and saying, let the real men do it because we just want to cry about this because this one hurts my feelings. And it's funny because this is now the second time after my workday I popped into another room and there's another guy crying about Trump needs to be mindful of my feelings and how I feel on his words.
Get that.
You can't have that. You can't sit there and say, hey, it makes me feel icky, so I don't want to have it, and I think we should use the courts, weaponize the courts, violate the First fucking Amendment, a constitutional landmark. No other nation has a First Amendment in the correct category that we have, and it's so badass that Trump today dressed up the Revolutionary Guard in full fucking uniform and put them out there to greet, guess who? The King of fucking England. Badass. I love that shit. That shit is amazing. That's free speech at its finest. That's great. That's bad fucking ass. But now, in order to protect that free speech, I have to accept a picture from Comey. Otherwise, your tears are going to get everybody in trouble, and we'll never have that. And once it's gone, once you put limits on it, once you start suing, once you start doing the court shit, weaponizing the courts to try to play that game, we will lose it all. It will absolutely be gone. And why would you give up that much power to the fucking government already? I'll end there.
Are sugar babies allowed to work in the government?
Or who?
Sugar babies.
Depending on where they work, being a sugar baby is not necessarily illegal. It is distasteful.
Like a 29-year-old.
Like is grounds to get you fired. I think if somebody knows about it, that depends on your boss.
Are you putting it on your resume, or are you just showing up there and faking it?
Are for hire? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, he's talking about that. He's talking about that government employee.
Every time I listen to Brad, I realize why conservatives have lost for like the last 40 years. Weak bond, all statements. What are you gonna do, Brad? Like write a strongly worded letter to your congressman or congresswoman? Like
I actually do
advocating for fascism. It's
that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Every time I hear like so-called...
So, like, let's do this. What I can do is I can leverage money. I can activate...
But it's just like, what are you going to do? You're going to run...
Okay, so you asked me the question now for the second fucking time, so now I'm going to answer it, you stuttering fucking idiot. I'm going to say this.
Brad, he was already losing.
So again, when I look at this and you think I don't have power, that I actually organize, I move people, I fucking campaigns to a high degree of level, that I actually get calls and if I want to back local politicians. And these are issues I'll bring up at RNC convention meetings. These are messages I'll sit there and tell people like Marshall, hey, when you're going out and canvassing, this is a major fucking concern of mine. This is a problem that I have. This is something I want to be remedied. So when you go around and tell people about this, Marshall gets these things, and I can spread it across the nation faster than you can. So again, I can also turn around and use the court to go ahead and sue those that want to infringe on it. Because if you think I can't weaponize the court after you create this. So again, you need to shut up while everybody else talks.
Let him finish speaking. I check. Let him finish. Yeah. So guys, as much as I'd like to see you call each other fat gay retards, it's not going to move either one of you closer to either one's perspective. Viking, you and I largely agree on this one. I think the fact of the matter is, it's not a lack of information. It's not a lack of information. It's clearly a fundamental disagreement on the morals and principles surrounding this particular issue. If that's Achit's position, I don't think either one of us are going to change it.
I don't need to, but when he asks me a question, I go to answer it, and then he just keeps his like fucking gurgling fucking gooseneck fucking going on. Then again, you can't expect me to.
If you keep this saw people basically
Marshall
banging
down.
symbols together, and he'll be cranking the you know.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about some know nothing from Australia.
Hi, Monica.
Yeah, Marshall, you're the same
I'd love to have an opinion on politics. Yet doesn't deal with it. It's okay.
You're just like, oh,
It's
Black
okay.
Lives
I'm
Matter.
good. Hey, Chuck, I know you're petty. It's
You have a
alright.
long memory, Marshall. You're the same.
All right, we're giving the floor to
So-
Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall, I think you're particularly adept at addressing these sorts of issues. I mean,
He's
when it
particularly
comes to the
retarded.
things,
All
and I
that.
definitely want to hear your input on this.
What was the chief contention of the argument?
Well,
As I understand it, we're talking about Comey.
Yes,
And
and
the
the indictment today.
So from what I hear from talking to lawyer and judge friends of mine is that it's not going to hold up under review. That it's going nowhere, right? That it's more political than it is actually lawful, which, I mean, says something about abusing the system in the first place, right? If you're going to abuse the Justice Department to politically go after somebody, then it doesn't really matter. I'm also kind of with Brad on this. How do we know Jim Comey didn't just walk up on that image, right? The tendency to punish over perceived political slights or what look like perceived political slights from a national point of view, I don't think are very healthy to the government and the Constitution. It shows that the rules don't really apply when the elites and the participants of government stop believing that the rules apply. Then they do weird, strange shit that ends in some sort of dictatorial, fascistic kind of end. You can play the game, but you can't play the game so hard you break it. And it's definitely possible to break the Constitution. And selectively applying it is exactly one of the ways in history in which those things then become null and void.
The Constitution is turning 250 years old this year, right?
Yes.
yeah. So I think so far, if I'm tracking correctly, Anne and Achik are the only ones who think that this is a good thing. And he should be
100% is a good
prosecuted.
thing. Marshall doesn't even. Marshall, people like Marshall
hang on,
doesn't even have a
And now
Achik. Well, yeah, Alan left the room though. I have a question for you. If you believe this is deserving of adjudication, what do you suppose the punishment should be?
I don't know what the punishment should be, but obviously a grand jury of the citizens in DC, a liberal city, where you have no chance as a conservative, in DC, was the one that educated this. Why the hell did you not mention it the whole entire time? He got indicted in DC, Washington DC, with his fellow.
Yes, because that's where the Justice Department files its claims.
You don't have a backbone enough. Stop talking.
So wait a minute, Achik, you don't have a position on what
There's
this
a reason
punishment
they
should
did it
be.
in DC, and I don't know what the punishment should be, but they should make an example out of Comey, because what they did to President Trump should never happen to another president, or should never happen to another person ever. They went through.
Literally, we had a grand jury indict Trump in Georgia, and people cheered it on. They argued against it.
1 second, bro.
I said the same fucking guy said it's impractical.
Wait a second. These people in J6 killed themselves, Brad. What part of that don't you fucking get?
So
They killed
Achik,
themselves
do you
because
do
they
you
went
generally?
they went after them for fucking nonsense and absolute terrible things.
So the answer is to violate the Constitution further?
And right now you have Comey.
He's not going to be movable on
No,
that. There's
bro.
no point in addressing it.
DC
Listen,
Let me
Achik, hold on.
define.
Slow down a little bit.
It was a
Well,
grand
okay.
jury
You're still
in
stacking
fucking
again.
DC.
Okay.
It was a grand jury in fucking Alabama to be like, oh, maybe it's terrible, like it's not the best thing ever. But it was a grand jury in fucking Washington DC. Even his own peers thought they need a trial to happen to him. Fuck that guy.
Listen, grand juries can indict a ham sandwich. Have you ever heard that American saying, H.A.?
Yeah, but hang on a second. Okay. So let me make sure I'm following the logic here. Okay. Based on the lawfare and the misbehavior of the previous administration in the direction of conservatives, you think the solution to that problem is to take a bigger bite of that apple to make that point, right? We're in a bar fight.
No.
I've picked up a pool stick, and your
No.
solution is to pick up a pool stick, and you think
No. I don't want a pull stick. I don't want terrible things to happen. I just want certain people to be held accountable. One of them is Jim Comey. He's one of the worst of the worst. Terrible
okay,
guys.
but Achik, the question that I'm trying to ask you here is: you think this is what will stop this? This will put an end to all the madness if we make an example out of James Comey. And
because they're gonna feel
Achik,
Achik,
you're gonna have a really hard time responding to my proposition in when it's not in its totality. Yeah.
I just want to say, I want to make Jim Comey an example. Everybody else, I don't really give a fuck about. Like,
well, right. Presumably, you want to make an example of them because you're under the impression that this is going to cease this behavior from the other side.
Yes, it is going to cease behavior because they have to know there's fucking consequences for their actions. You know, when you have like a kid, like,
I think that's
you don't have any
speaking of
consequences
like a
for their
kid.
actions.
I think that's a tremendously naive position. You think
No,
that
it's
the
not
left
fucking
isn't going to
naive.
turn
What do
around? You think the left
want
isn't going to turn
to
around?
prosecute every single person that is a Democrat there? You want them to do the exact same thing that they did to conservatives? Why the hell did you think President Biden pardoned people from
What makes you think they won't do it to conservatives?
I don't want that.
This is
all I want. Wait a second, Brad.
No, you keep babbling on and saying fucking weird shit. January 6th had nothing to do with it. You argued on January 6th that Trump saying we gotta go fight like hell was free speech and incite the riot. And now you're going to say this has to do it. No, you don't stop talking. You're a fucking moron that comments on public fucking policies in the United States without understanding.
Brad, can we make a polite recommendation? Brad, can we make a polite recommendation? Let's not interrupt Achik while he's reestablishing.
Fucking stuttery gooseneck, fucking Frankenstein sounding motherfucker.
Right, enough. All I want is for this bullshit to fucking end. That's it. And that's
You don't live here.
Enough, Brad. I don't give a damn, bro.
Let's let him land.
Fucking hey, go back to Somalia and fight for your own democracy.
Let's not let him land.
Enough, bro. Fucking hell. All I want is for this bullshit to fucking end. Finally, you know? Just let it. And one of the best to let it end, Jim Comey, the trial of fears. I don't think Jim Comey is going to go to jail. I don't think he's going to go to prison. I don't think he's going to spend any time with that. But they have to know that they can't do that in the future or everybody else. And that's it, really. That's all I was trying to say for like the last 10 fucking seconds. But you won't shut the fuck up.
Achik, help me understand how indicting Comey prevents this from happening all over again in the reverse when Democrats take power again.
It doesn't, and that's the problem.
So you want to make an example of somebody in hopes to prevent this sort of behavior from perpetuating, rather than just deciding,
I know,
hey, why don't we Achik, brother, look, okay. So you can accuse me of mod abusing all you like, but that's about the 11th time that you interrupted me in the middle of a sentence that I waited until you were done to start. Okay, I've yielded to you more than half a dozen times at this point.
Hi, Monica.
I think, as the kids say, you need to calm your fucking tits. All right. Yeah. When you say I want to make an example of somebody to accomplish a goal, and then immediately say you don't expect to accomplish that goal, all the while the thing that you're putting at risk, the chips you're pressing onto the table and saying I'm all in, is the Constitution of the United States, and that's just preposterous.
Stilgard, the issue I have is that we all stood, well, maybe not you, maybe some other people said inciting a riot, but Trump's words, we got to go to the Capitol and fight like hell. That phrase alone was weaponized. And dipshits like that guy sat there and said, it's free speech, it can't be taken literally. He didn't mean it. The context matters. You can't prove that he meant to incite an insurrection. It's not an insurrection. And I agree, it was protected free speech. It didn't mean to go up there and like hang the fucking members of the House. It didn't mean to go up there and do anything. It didn't mean to go break into the doors and invade the Capitol, destroy it, shit on fucking desks, take computers, take things that really shouldn't, even if you broke in, shouldn't have done it. It also didn't mean that, hey, we should violate constitutional rights. There's a multitude of issues that happened at January 6th. Fucking beating the shit out of a fucking Capitol Police officer with the American flag pole is not fucking free speech. And I don't give a fuck if that retard killed himself. I don't give a fuck if he did it. He deserved it. Because again, he violated not only the sanctity of our Constitution, but decided that he was going to go attack the government and beat some poor schmuck who makes 35 fucking K a year, who was just sitting there trying to say, hey, you can't come in here and trash the fucking Capitol building. But he beat him with the American flag, which really pisses me off to begin with. But now I have to worry with some stupid weird argument from some fucking foreigner who doesn't understand how our government works. That now you want me to sit there and say I gotta feel sorry for him and that we should forgive him. It's dumb. It's dumb. No. You talked enough. So this whole idea that now I have to codify that, oh yes, James Comey should go, then by same mention, you would have to literally, you'd have to prosecute Donald Trump. You'd have to put him in jail. Whatever the consequences were of fucking Comey out of this, if you manage to even get it there, would be the same for Donald Trump. It would be the same for fucking Mark Levin. Who's it? Ben Shapiro. Candace Owens. Fucking, what's his name? The guy who says frogs are gay all the time. All the Jones. Yeah. You would have to say Charlie
It's an eye for an eye argument, and that's the problem. The civilized world doesn't handle their problems that way. So,
no,
I mean,
it's either the rule of law or we don't have law.
But Brad, the problem here is we've described our position ad nauseum. It's not going to move him. I think when he's saying things like, I want to make an example of him, but I also expect nothing to change and the Democrats to perpetuate the exact same behavior, I think he's invalidated his own argument without the need.
I agree with you. But what pisses me off is when we have foreigners come in here and they don't live here, they don't fucking pay taxes to us, they don't contribute anything to the American society, and then sit there and tell us how we need to actually,
but again, tat thing. The tit for tat thing isn't fun. Like, we could do the dinner for schmucks thing at any point, and calling him a retard, no matter how retarded I think his ideas are,
still gotta listen
isn't going to move the conversation forward.
I agree, but again, we shouldn't let foreigners who don't live or partake in our governance or our country actually comment on how we should run our laws when clearly they have their own issues in their own fucking country, and when we talk about that, they lose a gasket on it.
The problem there, bro, is you're running headlong into an appeal to authority argument.
You really think it's so hard to become
he
an
can't have an
American?
opinion.
All I
He
gotta
certainly
do
doesn't have
is
influence.
have a plane ticket to fucking Alabama, and I'm an American.
Of course he can have an opinion, but it's a really annoying and ill-informed one, and one which bears, no matter what his opinion is, doesn't really affect his life. He's commenting on stuff that affect our lives, which I guess is fine, right? Like, he's entitled to it because he's on a fucking audio app and I can't stop him. But it is a little bit insulting to have somebody who is governed by different rules advocate for the essentially ripping apart of your own system because from across the ocean, he thinks that we just don't have a spine. Right? Like, there's something about that is belittling, it's condescending, it, like, presumes that they get this opinion without any pushback, and from what I've seen of A-Check, most of his opinion is rather anti-intellectual. It's all feelings-based.
Okay, but
right?
how about this? So I guess the unpopular opinion, so I agree that I think that these charges are validated, and I mean, we had a group of our peers vote on this for him to be indicted. So, like, jury duty, a group of our peers voted for him to be indicted. So then they did due process, right? So, like,
and it wasn't that, and I agree with you that yes, there's a grand jury. It's a similar response that was done to Donald Trump when we said, hey, this grand jury, you can indict a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
And they got it. They shopped it, and they did that whole thing. Same thing in New York City. They got it. They got their little indictment, and they got to go forward with it. And we all called it out. We said this is an abuse.
Yeah.
This is lawfare. If we decide at this moment to say, hey, this is our way we get our get back, instead of actually fighting the true fight, the moral fight, the Constitution, the rule of law fight, then we have just abandoned that we are, and now we're just a blur. We either have to have that framework now, even in the face right now of the most, like, whatever shit you want to, like Jimmy Kimmel saying that shit that the first lady looks great as a widow. Like, I hate that shit. That shit's like, and that really fucking twists me in a certain way as a personal level.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
But the idea that I want to prosecute him? No, I do not want to abuse the law or weaponize it. Now, if he was in a bar and said that shit to my
You're
face,
still fucking
yeah, I'd punch him.
emotional. Nobody's talking about that. You know,
Well,
nobody's
thank you.
talking about
It doesn't sound emotional at all.
We were talking about the prosecution of James Comey and Jimmy Kimmel.
Can I do a room reset, guys?
Was investigated by the
Can I do a room
FCC.
reset, please? I want to abuse the mod powers. I want to abuse the mod powers because what I keep hearing is one person is talking and somebody keeps interrupting. You're not going to get your point across. And the whole point of these conversations is you're going to hear things you don't like. But wait till the person's done and then say, hey, can I speak? And then say whatever you got to say. And I guarantee you that person is going to lodge you the same respect. There's nothing more annoying than hearing 5 people talk. Please.
So I just wanted to finish it, and then
Wow,
and
that's you just did it. Vikings started talking, you interrupted him. Please, bro.
So, and do you understand the point under what we actually have to do?
Yeah.
Do you agree or disagree with that stance, or do you still hold and say maybe this one's a little murky, we should let this go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this one is a little murky and we should let it go. But I think that obviously the process that we went through was the best. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question at hand: is do you want to use Comey as an example? My opinion would just perpetuate this behavior into the next administration, and the one beyond that, and the one beyond that, and it turns into a race to the bottom. Or
Yeah, because at its core, it's spiteful behavior.
Do you want to set the example of not perpetuating that behavior? Looking at a pile of seashells on a beach and going, this isn't a hill worth dying. Let's lean into the First Amendment. Let's lean into the principles we've been using to fight against this kind of behavior the entire time, and stand on our 2 feet and not get our panties in a knot over some seashell.
I'm torn.
Why? So let me ask you a question, Anne. Why are you torn on this particular instance as opposed to, I don't know, a lot of people have said a lot of egregious about Trump. Like, what's the hang up in understanding that, number one, like if you do even a little bit of research into the 86 and how the 86 is historically used the majority of the time, yes, in the context of FBI, DOJ, CIA, they will oftentimes use 86 as a means of meaning remove, but very rarely is it used in the terminology of kill or eliminate. It's often used as, remove. So,
Right.
and I mean, that's across the board. That's like across the board. More often, it's an abbreviation for remove, which is not necessarily an implication to kill. So when you take that into consideration,
Right.
yeah.
But I think, honestly, I think that Comey's a douchebag, so I think that I have, like, a hard time saying that I think he's a complete and utter, like, despicable human, and, like, what he said.
But
So
you
it's
agree,
beyond me.
right? You agree, though, that, like, I don't know. I feel like as conservatives, we have a,
honest.
We have a due diligence to protect free speech, even the fucking free speech we don't like.
Right.
Specifically, the free speech we don't like.
Because otherwise, we have former law enforcement officers in Tennessee getting arrested and spending 39 days in jail on $2 million bond because they put up a meme of Trump that his town didn't like. And he will just be the first of many. Like, it's going to be a slow erosion of our First Amendment right if we sit here and bandwagon that, yeah, we think that this witch hunt for Comey is justified. The first indictment against Comey, at least that one had like some criminal merit to it. This one, none at all.
Not for 20 years.
I don't think it's just about that. I think it's about what it does to the rest of the government. It instills this incentive of tearing rather than building. Yes, in politics, as I can tell you very personally, you have to know when to knife a motherfucker, as the saying goes, and like when to build bridges. But we have done a very poor job in our country of building bridges over the last 15 or 20 years. We've done a pretty good job at ripping apart. One of the things I have learned in life is if you want to instill good behavior in something, the way to do it is by leading with good behavior and instilling better norms or rules in the agencies, like demanding hire up the people that work for you. And that instills a much more professional, much more ethical workforce. But using the Justice Department to go after Comey for...
It's retaliatory. It's retaliatory judicial abuse. In the same way that they abused him with the judicial system, he's striking back.
I have a question.
Exactly. And the retaliatoriness, the thing that degrades is us all being equal in front of the eyes of the law. Because if they can do it to them, they wouldn't think twice about doing it to us.
They didn't think twice about doing it to us. It's a vicious circle.
So this is what we're going to spend the next 10 years doing? Who took apples out of the basket and put oranges and took bananas and threw grapes? Like, this shit is stupid. Like, our president that we're paying should not be wasting fucking time talking about who television networks should be employing for their talent. Like, I'm sorry, this shit is stupid. Like, this was the same fucking president that time and time again complained about Joe Biden taking away jobs. Joe Biden's taking away jobs, yet he is trying to get several hundred people in Los Angeles fired over a bad joke. Let that sink in for a second. Like, this shit is stupid. This is the same administration that has used Jet2 Holiday on their Instagram page to laugh about people getting deported. So don't you think that side was waiting to get their lick back to say what the fuck they wanted to say about the man? Come on. Like, this is stupid. We have bigger issues to worry about.
I don't think anybody in this room really majorly disagrees with you. Ben, what were you going to ask?
Well, so I'll just make this point. Like, I agree with the general sentiment that, yeah, obviously we have bigger fish to fry. Like, I also think that there's a difference between kind of going back to what Marshall was saying of using lawfare versus kind of what Adam is saying, which is going after free speech. Like, I think that there's a huge difference there. Like, if you're talking about doing ticky-tack files and using rules that are never ever used before, I think that that's very different than using the office of the president to go after your political opponents with actual no legal. Like I think that there's a difference there, right? Like, I think the president going after Jimmy Kimmel, is it Fallon? Kimmel going after Jimmy Kimmel I think it's stupid. Like, I think the guy has free speech.
You're right, considering the solution is to put hundreds of people on government assistance when they lose their jobs. That is a stupid strategy for a president that wanted to put people back to work and criticize his predecessor for firing, for getting people losing jobs.
But with that being said, it's like, I'm struggling with what Marshall was saying, which is like, okay, because I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, every single, and I'm not going to say it's Democrats first or Republicans first, every single fucking president, like, obviously there's a lot of shit that was done against Donald Trump. Like there was a lot of lawfare and all of this kind of stuff. It's like, so what is the answer? Like, if you're a Republican in this country, what is the answer? Like, when they go low, you go high. Like, how has that worked out for Republicans, right? Like, wasn't that the reason that elected in 2016? Was like,
that doesn't mean you can't knife people privately, man.
Sure,
it's just that the knifing won't be seen by anybody.
But the Democrats are not doing that. They're knifing people wide out in the open, and the Democrats are daring you to break the rules.
But Ben,
do you
not believe?
Just because somebody's going to jump off a bridge.
But they're saying, like, every single time the Democrats are doing this, they're like, hey, look, like, it was political malfeasance. It was political malfeasance to call your political opponents racist, and then like the Democrats are like, yeah, we're just gonna go after fucking Mitt Romney and say, oh, dude, he wants to put you all back in chains. Like, it was political malpractice. It wasn't politically, like, this wasn't like. Democrats do this all the time, and then what Republicans are supposed to sit on their hands and be like, no, we're the party of modesty. We're the party of, that doesn't work in America.
But let me ask you a question. The point was brought up earlier, Mitch McConnell, and all of the shit that Mitch McConnell did using Democratic legislation to stack the Supreme Court in our favor and to predominantly have the Senate for, nearly 10 years or whatever. Do you not believe that right is right no matter what? I mean, you either believe that right is
The judge did talk about, the judge mentioned sovereign citizens today. Christ,
what I said earlier when you're not listening, I said, cite where Sean Carroll explains why these models are not arbitrarily finely tuned, not to fuse bullets in their brains. Okay, go ahead, explain that.
In order to get into politics, you have to be a power-hungry piece of shit. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm Marshall. I'm sure you know lots of lovely people, public servants in politics. I'm saying in order to get to effectuate change on that level, then I'm saying, okay, so let's just take away the next executive order should be no more executive orders. Eventually, somebody's going to have to break this system and go, okay, it's a parent coming up and saying, you can't play nice with the toy, then I'm taking the toy away from you. If you can't play nice with the fucking power, then we're just going to take it away from you. I actually don't have an issue with the fact of Trump going after his political opponents the way that he does, as long as he's doing so with the letter of the law. Like, what's good is good. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And does it make the country a better place? No, not necessarily. But the Democrats are going to continue beating you unless you get down in the mud and play dirty with them. Like, and if that's the way that this is going to break the system and finally restore, like, is it the best thing for the country? No. But, like, Republicans cannot continue to lose. And obviously they've done well recently, sure. But I'm saying that, like, stacking the Supreme Court. Okay, you're so desperate to interrupt me. I was going to say,
don't even.
But it's just, like, I think that's the way. Like, yes, I'm also sick of the pendulum swinging back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's monotonous. I'm a moderate conservative.
Do you honestly? Okay, so you're all for Trump using the letter of the law to exact his judicial revenge, but
over issues that threaten to strip us from our First Amendment rights. Are you okay with that? Because I don't feel like that's what Trump is doing in this particular case with Comey. The original indictment on the collusion and shit, 10-4, I got you. That indictment was dismissed without prejudice. They could refile those charges. Instead, he chooses to go after the fucking seashell picture. Like, that's my problem, is leave the freaking free speech alone.
Again, I think it'll be adjudicated. Like, if I haven't looked at the Comey indictment fully, so I'm speaking. I'm speaking with. I haven't read it personally, but like the Don Lemon thing as an example, like going after Don Lemon for that kind of shit. Like, I have no issue with that as long as.
Me either, but that was a violation of civil rights.
Sure.
It's entirely different.
Sure, but that's my point. Is like if you're going after free speech and just like coming out there and like, I don't know. I guess this is also a president who's been shot at a couple of times and had three separate attempts on his life, right? Like, I would be shocked if he wasn't upset about the entire. Like, obviously Melania is upset. Like, this is nuts. Like, we need to lower the temperature. I don't know that this lowers the temperature, but like, something needs to fucking happen. This is crazy. And again, going after free speech is one thing, but like, I don't know. If there's a legitimate indictment here, more power to you. Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's my problem. Is I just don't think this is not the hill to die on. This is not where I want my tax dollars being spent. I'd rather my tax dollars being spent on something legitimate, criminally wrong that he did, and I'm just not sure that this meets that threshold in any way, shape, or form.
At this point, I'm not worried about my tax dollars, considering the bullshit that our tax money gets. Like, I've given up on my tax dollars. Let me put it that way. I live in the state of Maine. My tax dollars. There's fucking potholes all over the street and like tons of homeless people everywhere. And I think a higher tax. Like, and I obviously know that's on a state level. But if you look up the gross, disgusting waste and amount of fraud that's in the
no doubt.
then I'm like, okay, like these indictments are a drop in the bucket. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also like, I don't really care.
Alrighty then, yeah.
I love that Alistair just said in the comments that the system is bankrupt, yet we employ 80,000 federal police officers. Yeah, that's what's breaking it. That's what's bankrupting the system. Come on.
I'm not saying that's what's bankrupting. I'm not saying that's what's bankrupting the system. I'm saying the system is bankrupt, and if we want to save money, we could fire maybe half of the FBI and just defer all those responsibilities to local police. We don't need all these federal agents. And in fact, the federal workforce is down 40% from when Trump took office, and that's because everybody just kicked rocks and said, fuck it, I'm going to retire. And they put their retirement paperwork in. We need competent people in these positions, and what we have is a bunch of left wokeists. In my opinion, we should purge the entire system, shut it all down, and put it all back up on one Palantir platform. You may not like that recommendation, but when $50 billion of your tax dollars are being defrauded in California through Medicaid, and the state only collects $50 billion in income, what's the fucking point? Shut it all down. It's completely corrupted. I rest my case, and I am complete.
If you don't disagree with all of that, which is crazy.
I mean, why do we need Medicare, Medicaid? Pay as you go. Oh, I got to go to the doctor. Okay, great. Now the government's going to pay for it. But we don't need this annual, quarterly, and annual budget billing system. We need pay as you go. The country's bankrupt. We need innovative financial transactions to help alleviate the stress. Hello?
Do you guys know this guy?
Hello?
Yes, this is John Kitover.
I'm like,
For one, three only.
he's the CIA operative.
But when he's right, he's right.
Fucking Donald Trump ran against entitlement reform. Can we all remember that? Like in this last
But
election,
he's right.
Nikki
He's
Haley
right.
and Ron DeSantis Like that was Donald Trump's line of attack was, I'm not going to touch your Social Security, Medicare. Like that's what's bankrupting this country. It's
My wife called me lazy because I never do the things I say I'll do. I thought it was precious.
which I think both of those combined help bankrupt the system.
Some Muslims are not that extreme, that they are moderate, where the fund
goes into a cave.
Everybody got so
there's
quiet.
a river sweeping through Egypt at this time.
Let's just bring back
It made too much sense, Ben. I guess discussion's over.
Yeah, really.
Just withdraw.
You know, because Ben, you know what? Why? Because Ben rules everybody.
Relationship with
Why?
God. And so then I moved
Ben moves everybody with that mod thing.
Yeah, so I'm really good at magic.
Yeah. You both mentioned something.
I was He's drunk now.
He is.
Oh,
okay.
That's how the crown came to me.
Wednesday where he's at.
Wait. You know what's so terrible, Ben? He is Anthony Bourdain's portrait. Can you at least let him rest in peace? Or choose another portrait of the picture? Because you're not Anthony Bourdain.
40 years old.
You're full of shit. Change your PTI. You're not Anthony Bourdain. You will never be Anthony Bourdain. And you'll never be half the man as this. Just change your fucking PTR.
What are you drinking tonight, buddy?
That is a ruthless attack, I'll tell you.
Change your PTR before you talk to me. Because
what are you drinking?
I feel like Anthony Bourdain. And whenever you come up and I see Anthony Bourdain picture, I'm like, oh, this must be a real guy.
Did you do a shimmy? Is that
You're
what
like
you
a
did?
terrible person. You know, one of the worst.
The culture.
Ben is wonderful. I love Ben. What are you talking about?
I like Ben as a person, but
I love Ben.
You're like, time honored tradition. Just hate me because of my PTR. That's amazing.
We're just dealing
You're the first person
with
to actually
scum.
hate
That's all we're dealing with.
Most people think I'm a middle-aged white guy.
Bro, I don't even give a shit what the fuck you are. Just change it from Anthony Bourdain and let the band rest in peace. I don't give a shit if you're black, if you're white, if you're Mexican, if you're Kosovo, if you're Jewish, if you're Irish.
I don't want to
give a shit. You wanna think I give a shit how the fuck you look like? Just change your PTR because the second people look at you, they're like, Anthony Bourdain, he must be a good guy. But no, you're scum in half of the things that you think about. The rest of the
No, he's not.
Don't take a shovel while he's digging.
No, but the thing is, it's terrible. I don't understand why he does that. You know, it's terrible. It's changes. It's a horrible thing he's doing.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always.
Oh my gosh.
This is what I'm saying. I don't want peace. I want problems always.
It's not my stance. It's not my.
People like you actually make mistake, you know?
Because of the Anthony Bourdain thing.
Serendipity and other people we can get along, but you.
I think we're gonna slip.
Oh no, he's still up. I was gonna say I'm not touching him.
I had some popcorn for lunch. My hands are a little slippery. But I have something to propose. Do you think that it's okay to have somebody like that on national television that has millions of viewers to basically influence the public to want the president of America to die? You think that that's okay to teach our youth and the vulnerable, like the people that are very easily, I don't know how to say it, easy to sway, you know what I mean? Like, in their position and it could lead, has anybody thought that this could lead to violence? They should indict Jimmy Kimmel along with Comey.
I have strong feelings about this. Do I think he has a viewership and that he can be influential? Yes, I do. But this is kind of where that whole personal accountability thing comes in. I think that the way that you combat something like that is you raise your children to be critical
Don't call me,
thinkers.
bro.
You raise your children to you know, investigate, ask questions, research, and to understand not falling prey. Because the thing of it is, social influencers can be a lot more dangerous than just in the political violence realm. I mean, social influencers can impact girls and their self-esteem and their body positivity. Like, you could go down a list of ways where social influencers can be detrimental to the public's health. But you know what? They exist. And they exist in a country because we guarantee the right for people to have free speech. And even when it's fucking abominable, even when it's fucking disgusting, we live in a country that guarantees us the right to be able to do it. So the onus kind of falls on us. Like, we have to be capable of using our...
Yeah, well, that's what Donald Trump is doing when he's trying to prosecute Comey. He's using his freedom of speech. He's using the law to go against those who are lawbreakers. And if you don't like Donald Trump using the law, well, obviously you don't know what the fuck the law is. Hello?
No, but I'm talking about Kimmel right now. But,
Hello?
But so I would agree with what you're saying, but I also agree that a lot of parents these days aren't raising their children. Social media is raising their children.
You're right.
And that
And
becomes
shame on the
problematic.
parents. Shame on the parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there has to be some type of responsibility where we have to take as humans to say, oh fuck, okay, we're allowing our children to be raised on iPads and iPhones and whatever, Androids, and television and Instagram and all that stuff. Should we have responsible speakers?
No, we should restrict social media. That's the obvious answer. I mean, like we have laws on cigarettes in this country. You got to be what 18 or 21 in most places to buy cigarettes. Why do we have these laws in place? Because kids are not smart enough to make their own decisions, right? Like I agree with what you're saying, BB. Like I really, really do. But I think it has to come down to restriction of the social media companies. Like social media has been. I mean, we're talking about Jonathan Haidt earlier, and Monica and I think Serendipity. I think you were in the room as well. We're talking about Jonathan Haidt earlier. He's on this huge campaign at the moment about social media usage in kids. Like that has to be where this comes from.
Well, Ben, I think you touched on something that's so powerful, and I think it was so subtle that I don't think people really caught it. And then I would ask like people in the room, do people have a problem that there's an age restriction on smoking cigarettes?
No.
Yeah, of course I'm a fucking pro with age
I check. Stop. It's annoying at this point.
You asked the fucking question.
No, I know, but it's like there's like alcohol involved with the answer. So hold on, because I think it's very important what Ben said, and I think it's if people don't have a problem with if people don't have a question. And the problem is you don't give simple answers. Sorry, bro. Just hold on for a second because there's something to be said about what Ben said.
Yeah, I wanna answer this for you.
Go ahead, dear.
Yes, I don't have a problem with there being age restrictions on smoking cigarettes. The thing of it is, it's a tangible good that you have to go to the store, you have to interact with a person to purchase and verify your identity. I think the problem comes in the virtual reality because there are too many ways to bypass verifying identity. You know, this kind of leads back to that Meta case that they just lost recently. Meta and was it Google? I think Google's the only other one that didn't settle. They just lost that case in California to that girl who essentially blamed her mental health issues on her social media addiction because somebody handed her an iPad at the age of 6 and she became addicted to YouTube. And by 11, she was addicted to Instagram. And, you know, she sued these companies, and generally they're protected by legislation that protects them from being liable due to content posted on their platforms. But the problem was they said that they didn't take enough actions to make the platforms safe to protect against children, like make them difficult for children to access. But when you have parents who are logging children in, creating accounts for them, bypassing all of the rules, I worry that this is a slippery slope again to curtailing our First Amendment right. And it's an entirely different ballgame when you're talking about virtual versus in person.
I think the restriction on purchasing of tobacco products is clearly not effectual, right? There was a dramatic decline in cigarette usage, but it basically tracks directly with the increase in vape usage. And now at this point, they're like Motorola's buying up companies who are developing vape detectors to be placed in like middle schools, right? There's a massive market for this. The private sector is running at full steam ahead to attack this problem. So the question is does this legislation do anything? And we've seen I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, something like that, we raised the age from 18 to 21. And now you have to be 21 to legally purchase cigarettes in this country, or any tobacco product for that matter. The sale of Zins and Snus and these sort of like nicotine pouches and vaporizers is at all-time highs amongst those under the age of 18. So it's clearly not having an effect.
Now, to follow up on that, do we think that there needs to be tougher laws on parents? Like, does the government need to step in and have more control over the children? Basically, because the parents aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Like, should the parents somehow be held to account?
The problem is as much as I'd like to see that, I don't think that would be effectual either. I think it's a cultural problem. It's a cultural problem that parents have now like outsourced 3/4 of their job to iPads, and they've kind of yielded to this blame everything around my child, not my child behavior. And I don't think there's any type of legislation that we can implement that would improve the quality of life writ large and also improve the condition of that issue. It would have to be tremendously authoritarian and make more victims of like putting parents in jail for their behavior. To the point that the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze.
So like in Canada, they introduced a bill a couple years ago. I think it was Bill C-81. Yeah, you'd have to have a look at this, where children are basically property of the ward, right? So of the state, and basically parents don't have any rights. So little Johnny goes to school one day, and I know it's gonna sound like I'm going off like a course here, but I'm not, right?
No, I'm tracking. I think you're dead on.
Okay, so children go to school. Little Johnny goes to school, and he says, "Hey, I want boobies."
Yeah, I want to be a girl. Yeah,
I want to be a girl. He goes home and he says, "Daddy, Johnny, I want to have boobies." Daddy says, "Johnny, you're Johnny. You're a boy. Boys don't have fucking boobies. Smarten the fuck up and go back to school and be a boy." He goes back to school. He says, "My daddy says I can't have boobies." They can now legally remove that child from the home.
Yep.
Because they think that child is being endangered and they want to protect that child. So now the parents lose the right of raising the children because they believe that the parents are endangering the child. And I think that has a lot to do with things like this, like the Jimmy Kimmel situation, the iPad situation, the smoking situation. But where's the line where it stops? Like, I think that there could be a happy medium, but I don't think it would stop. And I think it's a slippery slope, like what Serendipity was saying, and you were saying, that where does it stop? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the issue is when we want the government to use tweezers, all they have is a hammer. And if we put this kind of control in their hands, it's largely not going to improve conditions of what we set out to improve, and it's likely to worsen conditions elsewhere. And I just think, yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. Unfortunately, it feels like a more tenable solution than hoping the culture will change. But like, unfortunately, kids are gonna have to die of popcorn lung, and you know, we're gonna have to allow them to suffer the consequences of sucking down vegetable glycerin by the gallon, and then something will change.
A couple of things, yeah. A couple of things. When the smoking age was raised to 21, less teenagers smoked, and I think that even though the number of vapors is increasing, I think the total teenage vapors is still lower than those that were smoking cigarettes before the age.
No, it's actually higher. It's actually higher.
Well,
the trouble is
I just looked at. Yeah,
Edie's
it's
right.
the opposite right now. But,
Maybe in America, sorry, I know in Canada it's a big problem.
Edie's right based on the statistics, but the problem is like how do you account for the kids that are certainly hiding it from their parents, certainly aren't responding to these sorts of surveys? And if you look at the private sector, there's investment going into like anti-vaping technologies. I work with public schools in a security capacity, and the demand right now for the ability to identify and address the behavioral issue of vaping in schools is like the number one topic on everybody's mind. It's more important than school bus crashes. It's more important than school shootings at this point. And you go online right now and buy a 510 battery, which is like a commonly used variant of battery for vaporizers that looks like a fucking a highlighter, right? Like, there's products being marketed to enable children to do this. There's products being marketed to prevent them from doing this. It's definitely a problem. Right. Cigarette use is naturally going to go down when the dramatic increase of vaping happens.
Right.
And the problem is, so sorry, Edie, because I'm in the space of vaping, and I know a lot about it, and it's a fucking huge problem because even in the States right now, I think there's only 2 or 3 vape products that are actually legal, FDA approved, right? All of these vapes that you guys see, like Craze, Aloe,
they're great.
They're illegal. But they're selling them like crazy.
So making laws, changing the legal age doesn't seem to be the way to do it because manufacturers are still targeting these products.
No, the problem is that there's only one company or 2 companies that are manufacturing vapes in America. The rest are being manufactured in China, and they don't give a fuck what they're putting in it.
And so, but the ones that are legally doing it still will find a way to target younger people, even though there's not legal. They'll just say it's not for younger people, even though we're making it in bright colors and all this stuff, And then you have, stores are selling these things, just like with THC products. There's stores all over the place in states where it's not legal unless it's a dispensary, but they're still selling a THC product that, that they're not supposed to have because nobody does anything about it.
Well, look at Florida. They don't call it THC, they call it Delta 9.
There's stuff that's actually labeled THC in stores. So I don't know how they
THC is an umbrella category of a bunch of different molecules, and what they're essentially doing is creating these loopholes in the law to circumnavigate certain rules and make these THC analogs that are then legal for sale in this gray market capacity. The problem here is I firmly believe that is like a direct result of what we see as the government.
Right. That's I think that's the point I'm getting to. The government, and when you talk about social media, so there's still kids still can't go to see like R-rated. I don't think they call them R anymore, but there's still restrictions.
No, they're still R-rated.
No, they're R-rated.
Just the color. Okay, but so I was like, well, then what's the problem with having that social media? But then the rest of us, adults and everybody, are going to have to put some sort of ID in when we log in, right? That's the only way to verify. Other than, unless they just say, are you 18 or over? Which obviously isn't going to verify unless you put some ID, which I don't think we want to do. Put an ID every time we log into social media. So the government trying to regulate these things, use the government to control these things, it's not a good solution. I don't think we want to keep giving the power to the government to do it. It has to come down to the parents. And although it's hard to do, that's the only way you're really going to do this.
But that's what I'm saying. Some of these things are doing their job.
Some of these things are the fault of the government.
Only way to. Parents need to start doing their fucking job because you don't want to rely on the government to do it because it's not going to work.
Some of these things are the direct fault of the government, and like the cannabis thing is it makes the argument into these other categories insofar as if the government would do what the clearly overwhelming majority of the American populace wants, which is like federally legalized cannabis like Canada did, then we wouldn't have to have all these loopholes and workarounds, because unfortunately some of these loopholes and workarounds are totally innocuous and they buy it at the head shop and they don't even get high and it's no big deal. Some of them are bath salts. Right? Bath salts was the same thing. It was analogs of other compounds that were otherwise made illegal. This is like a problem of the government not appropriately regulating the market.
Can I interrupt? I hate to interrupt.
Is it marketing?
I just want to point out one thing. I want to bring everybody aware to the chat of the threat that I just got from a check, and I think that you guys should all be aware of this. BB, you're a wanker, and I hope you shit yourself in public. I think that's uncalled for. and I think we should all stand up against
Threats of shitting yourself in public.
Shitting yourself in public.
Yeah, we don't want that. That's gonna affect the
In Dino Cheek. Yeah, so, and the
I
thing
was
is,
just going to say, Stigler, are they marketing? Part of the problem is the marketing efforts are marketing towards kids, how the advertisements look. I mean, we have that problem in my industry. It's a big problem, and there's mass torts actions and big lawsuits that have been settled because the marketing is appealing to kids. And, there's
Yeah,
obviously
but any marketing is
regulations.
appealing to a child.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I
matter
mean,
if it's
I
geared
mean-
to a 50-year-old.
I understand
that's
that.
largely what we're getting at, though, is what we're
Yeah, I mean,
like,
we have it in the gambling world. It's a big problem. And
the government's lack of action in terms of vaping leads to like BB said, there's 2 or 3 vapes that exist in the country that are actually able to be legally sold, and the rest of them are operating in this weird gray marketplace. Crackdowns kind of ebb and flow at this point.
but what does the packaging look like? Like, that's my
It's not
question.
the packaging. Like people are.
What I'm saying, Abby, is that's what's incentivizing the sale of these products in these gray markets, making them more easily accessible to these kids.
So
Right, and they look attractive to kids. I mean,
I
that's
was
the
just
part
talking
where
to you a
those
minute
can-
ago about a vape battery that you can buy on Amazon that looks like a highlighter. It looks like a 1-to-1 highlighter.
Crazy.
How long are you guys gonna go on about vapes? Because we haven't even gotten to COVID-19 injections, for all these youth. I mean, that Pfizer, Coca-Cola brand push. Wow, what an incredible marketing. Moderna, J&J. Oh, wow.
I think there's a misconception where people are thinking that the packaging is what attracts children. It's not. It's the flavors. It's the thing you can get strawberry blue.
I have a genuine question. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you added kerosene to cornflakes, and obviously nobody's actually going to do that. But there are consumer protection laws. I ask this as a genuine question. I don't have an answer to this, but like you see this RFK Jr. is doing a bunch of shit where he's saying you can't have all of these harmful chemicals in our food, which is like that should be like, well, no shit. But like, is there? I ask you this genuinely. Is there any recourse for that to say, hey, these chemicals are really, really harmful, and you just can't sell this in this country because this shit is just really.
The problem is the chemicals aren't harmful until they get heated.
Okay. So.
And then it changes the molecular structure, and that's where the chemicals that are in vapes, they only become harmful once they ignite. Like once they get on the heat, the battery heats it. And it turns into the vapor. That's where the poison comes into effect. Before that,
To your earlier point, the whole vape market was a niche market. There was a kind of a nice little cottage industry of mom and pop shops popping up, and people who wanted to be into the vaping thing had to like wind their own coils and make their own canisters and like build these vaporizers, and they were largely like purchasing the vape juices domestically, and it was made here. Go into any gas station within a 5-mile radius of.
Now that's treating the vol numbers as like constant values for universes you might find yourself in, and then there's less of them in the naturalism, right? Which is a crude analogy because it's actually like way more complicated than that, but like it makes the point.
I mean, I have this thing in my Islam essay, which is just I have it be numbers drawn on a piece of paper, drawn out of a hat. So I'll call it the hat argument now, but anyway, it's just the fine-tuning argument for God. For atheism.
No, we should call it the stepping in the buckets argument. And stepping in the bucket is a thing from baseball where you, instead of stepping towards the plate with your lead foot, you step away from the plate. Thank you.
Do you guys mind if we just quickly, Deepak, can you just cover, because I don't know how much time I have, can you just tell me what happened with your resolution with Zellini?
I mean, I actually, I messaged you. I mean, you asked the question, right? I can answer it.
Okay, but, I mean, can you tell me, since I don't know how to read?
Well, the R is like, he just thinks that, like, the boys down to him thinking that, he just thinks that, like, a Bayesian sort of analysis of epistemology is, like, not the right way to, like, describe the majority of situations, even mundane ones. I mean, partly it's based on, mostly it's just based on the fact that that doesn't actually describe how people update their beliefs, right?
But they do. But they do.
I mean, that's not actually a super crazy thing to think, to be honest with you. That, like, people are not, like, perfect Bayesian machines, and we don't actually typically reason like that.
Well, there's a difference between being a perfect Bayesian machine and, like, doing this sort of belief update that roughly corresponds with, like, Bayesianism by analogy. Right. And I think there are times when people don't even do that, right? Like when, like all these cognitive biases, like, the librarian example and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. People are irrational all the time, so it's hard to say. So, like, the thing is, like, typically you want to say it's a model of, like, ideal reasoning or something.
Right. And Zeleny thinks that that's actually, there's no fact of the matter about, like, maybe I'm being too strong in what he's saying, but maybe that's.
He's probably correct. I probably agree.
Bro, I'm gonna bring it back up. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, I saw that God Logic one today. I thought that was pretty funny.
He just did one like 2 minutes ago. The Muslims are running, and the Muslim was begging for mercy, and his mods kicked God Logic off. They were trying to save the guy.
I saw that one too, and he was like, "Man, you agree with what I'm saying to you about." Yo, I was thinking about that verse.
The Muslim was trying to say that he was uncreated. He was a thought, and so he was uncreated.
Hello, moderators.
I'm gonna take a nap. So
Good evening, moderators. I'm wondering if anyone can be kind enough to read the text in my PTR. Thank you.
Okay. The quest of the Holy Grail, the search for the stone of the philosophers, by whatever name we choose to call the great work, is therefore endless. Success only opens up new avenues of brilliant possibilities. Yeah, verily and amen. The task is tireless and its joys without bounds. For the whole universe and all that is in it, that in it is, what is it but the infinite playground of the crowned and conquering child, of the insatiable, the innocent, the ever-rejoicing heir of space and eternity, whose name is man, I guess. Okay. All right, dog. Cool. I hope I read it as best I could. I need it.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, like, we sit here and we talk about the God all the time, but man in itself is quite remarkable. I mean, we're fully automated. It only takes a man and a woman to bust a nut and have a great orgasm. I mean, look at Barth. He's got 4 incredible children that he loves with his heart.
He already forgot about the golden calf.
It's too early to have him in the room. He's just gonna kill the room. So, but later on, you can come up later on.
He's trying to acknowledge the creation, but not the creator. That's what got them wrong in the first place.
Early in the room to have him. He's good life when the room is dying out.
Bro, Megatron, Alistair is actually pretty cool. You're the one that's ruined the room. You kicked me down because I disagree with you.
You're being personal.
No, you are. You're being very vindictive.
No, you're being disrespectful to the
Alright, things are about to get weird.
If anything, you guys will be sitting together. That's why I'm behaving myself.
Wait, because I'm scared because somebody's got a green bean? Like, I give a fuck if you're gonna kick me out of the room?
I'm not gonna kick you out.
What's that? Bro, you are...
Here's the other thing. Here's how it started, and I think this is also a more reasonable question to ask. Is, like, let's say there's a claim and you use it to, like, update your beliefs, right? Like, what is it that's really doing the work, quote unquote, right? Is it the claim itself, or the background information that, like, gives you the reliability for the claim?
Yeah, I've explained that point to Deepak because you can just say, look, the claim in this context is like a piece of data of, like, it's an observation that somebody is, like, testifying to you or something, or they're assenting to something or whatever. So it's like the data is like an observation of a person doing this, And the idea is like, okay, you could tell me what my background is, right? Like I could be like, in this kind of context, people are usually honest. I don't know. That's just like an easy one, like you could come up with other ones that would also make it happen.
Moderators, I'm just wondering. I know you guys will go on forever, so I'll have to just speak up. I'm wondering if somebody could read my PTR. Hello?
So, Jesus Christ. So you have that in your background, right? Before you get a claim, right? So you haven't made this observation yet of a person, testifying to something.
I never killed one Kurd.
But you killed the Shia as well.
More than I got fingers and toes.
And they let you live and suffer life. Like
they have a $50,000 fucking price tag on my head.
They let you live because you suffer like a pig.
I suffer like what kind of pig?
Like the pig you
want to throw your pearls at me?
So you granted them a martyrdom, right? Heaven. But they granted you hell and fire and suffering.
Dude, I was the medic.
That's why you sound like a fucking devil here.
He has like the best rape debate, I'm telling you.
As a result of that,
Right, bro. I mean, look, dude, I'm a Georgia boy. You shoot at me, I'm gonna shoot at you. But like, I never went there to hurt anybody. I went there to be a medic. Like, it's not my fault you turned me into the old me.
You're not shit, bro. Don't talk to me.
No, I mean, I'm not shit because God is great and I make myself small.
What are you telling people if you're a medic?
Because I had a gun and people were shooting at me.
What kind of gun did you have?
An M4, a 249, 12 gauge, and an M9.
What are you doing with 12
God is the shit. Got it?
Dude, when I wore my full battle rattle, I was 130 pounds heavy. But I would do 12 miles and on a 6-hour dismount. Like we would just walk through the city.
Yeah, I'm
kicking indoors,
soft
knocking, hard knocking, running the shit out of shit.
Right now, I'm skinny as fuck, and I weigh 195 pounds.
I'm 155 pounds, and I don't really give a crap.
That's not make time. PCR that shit.
Bro, you act like I won't smoke a joint in your fucking face.
Why don't you have a Smith & Wesson? You said you're a Georgia boy.
Because I prefer my Berettas. Like, dude, I am a Georgia boy. I have my own gun range in my own backyard. Like, dude, it's 8:30 right now, right? What if I go like 1, 2, 3?
Should we report to the FBI? What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
I love Jesus.
I love you, dude.
Why don't you recite a surah and then shoot at the gun?
I think it's when you kill Sunnis, you're allowed to have a gun in the U.S. in case they try to kill you back. That's gangsta.
Yeah, I told you my friends are.
He's my friend. He's not your friend.
He's been a friend for years on this app. You just met him.
No, you haven't. No, you
Yes, I have.
I've been on here for 5 years. Everybody knows who Doc is.
Hell yeah. What up, Doc?
I could be drunk and retarded, or I could be really sober like I am now and tell you you're full of fucking shit.
No, you're not. You're not going to be shooting in front of my door.
Dude, if I wanted to get rid of you, I wouldn't even, get anywhere near your door.
Megatron is a friend. All right, you two should be friends.
Well, I'm not trying to pee on his leg and tell him it's raining.
I get that. But you guys are like the same, cut from the same cloth. You're just a southern person. He's northern.
Well, that might be the inherent difference. Or a vast difference, because I'm a man and
I like how you compare current CEOs to like aristocrats, like kings. I mean, that's what they are technically.
Right.
In their corporate structure.
Right. They're just a group of free market aristocrats, right? Where they have a lot of power and influence, but they have no obligation to their own country, their own people. They just have obligation to their own family and capital, essentially, right? And to their corporation.
Right.
So now all the aristocrats, merchant class, and middle class owe no loyalty to their own country. And we have globalist capitalists, globalist finance, but we also have globalist consumers who want to buy cheap goods from China, right?
Hi guys. Hello.
Hello.
Are you Christian, guys? Are you Christians?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
Yeah, why Jesus got crucified?
Jesus got crucified because the Jewish people were waiting for a Messiah, and Jesus said in certain terms that he was the Messiah, and the Jews didn't like that, and they were given a choice by Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman governor, and they said, would you rather crucify a criminal named Barbarus, who was a murderer, a rapist, and a thief, or would you rather crucify a person claiming to be God, who was trying to create social change in the Near East?
He got crucified.
And they chose. All right, Ahmed, I'll see you later.
Wait, can I ask?
Losers.
No, he's gone. You can wave him. You can add him and wave him if you want, but I don't really talk to retards. So.
Hey, that was a nice answer, bro. I mean, you were getting there.
There are different ways to see the figure of Christ. One of the things he was trying to do is bring back the custom of the Jubilee, where you forgive the debts of the lower classes that Jews used to practice, but started practicing less and more with the Pharisees. And, the Lord's Prayer is forgive the debts of those who owe money to you as if you would like to have your debts forgiven. But a lot of modern Christians changed that word from debt to sin, and they kind of missed the mark on that. So I would say a lot of Christians aren't really Christians. They're subverted Christians.
So what you're trying to say when people say Jesus died for our sins, it's Jesus died for our debt?
Our debt, correct.
What up, Gio? But I think that makes even less sense than sins. Or maybe because I've heard it so many times.
Right, correct. I get where you're coming from, but it's not just sins that he died for. It's also debt, and because the forgiveness of debts is what prevents indentured permanent servitude of your family for the next 1,000 years or 500 years. And the Jubilee that the Jews practiced is what was a way of preventing their own people from becoming permanent indentured servants. Whereas liberals think that there's nothing wrong with permanent indentured servitude.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the same concept in Islam there is for it with regards to interest. That is what
that came from Christianity and Judaism and Sumer and Babylon way before Islam even existed.
Wherein interest was forbidden.
Too much interest was forbidden, but instead of giving people money in welfare, what they did was they forgave the debt. This is ancient Sumer, right, which is one of the oldest civilizations. You can see this in all the Near East derivative civilizations like Babylon and so many different groups of people in that region before the Jews.
But Jews, I think they practice a lot of what is it called? The practice of interest usury or something, right?
Right, but that's when they more came to that developed more when they became a minority of the Romans and then came into Europe, right? And there weren't that many jobs for them to go into, so that
church historically were against usury until they weren't, and until they weren't the power structure of Europe. And the Catholics are the last Christians to practice the Jubilee, actually, historically.
What is the Jubilee?
The Jubilee is the forgiveness of debt of the lower productive farming class so that they wouldn't be in permanent indentured servitude.
But how can a church forgive the debts of farmers when the debts are with the banks?
Well, because in those times the church had a lot more influence, so they could. And then in historical Sumer, let's go back to pre-Christianity and pre-Judaism. How did ancient Near East societies practice debt forgiveness? There was two types. One was that every time there was a new coronation of a king, he would forgive the debts. And because the debts were taken, like let's say you were a poor farmer and your tools broke, and you're a poor farmer, so you can't buy it, right? You would go to a local temple, which is the religious, or you would go to the king and the king's state and ask for a loan. Okay, and over a period of time, those loans would stack up, but you were still able to produce wheat productively because you got those loans. So every 7 years, or whenever a new king was coronated, all those debts would be forgiven, and you would have a clean slate again. Um, and then every 50 years, the king and the religious temples would redistribute all the land in their society, so that people could go back to their homeland, and then allow for the free market again. And over those 50 years, the best farmers and the richest farmers would eventually have most of the land again. And this was a way to reset the system every 7 to 50 years so that you wouldn't have permanent indentured servitude of like 3 to 4 or 5 generations of people being indentured servants to the same rich people.
So it was before Christianity, you're saying?
Yes, it was before, and then it was during Judaism, and then it was also during Christianity. The Catholic Church did have jubilees in the Middle East.
So you don't believe in the whole idea of Jesus died for our sins? Like if a Christian commits, say, a lot of crimes, say Hitler, and he's a practicing Christian, he won't go to heaven just because
No,
he's a
there's an
Christian?
element of that. Yeah, there is an element of that, but it depends how you interpret it. Does that mean that your job is to never commit sin? Probably not, because we are fallen and only Jesus is sinless. So from my perspective, it's normal for humans to commit sin, but you should repent as a Christian and you should try to do better. But I don't expect everyone to be able to become Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but say somebody rapes a little kid and then they die. So they, according to you, they'll go to heaven because they're a Christian.
That's where I'm like a little bit unsure. I don't know if it's just to believe in Christ or repenting of your sins and then trying to be a better person in this material life before you get to heaven, right? And trying to actually change your life for the better. I think that process is what makes you Christian.
And what is the concept of repentance in Christianity?
Repentance is asking for forgiveness, understanding that what you did was not a good thing, that it was bad, and that you should try to change your life so that you no longer live in that type of lifestyle.
So it's not going to a confession.
That is part of that. Yeah, like that is part of it. The confessional is part of repentance, right?
So this couple, they like consistently are constantly like fighting all
So
the
what
time.
if when Jesus died for your sins, then what is the point of
She
repentance?
chases him around town. He keeps screaming at her. It's like
Yeah.
a fun comedy routine.
Because
I put him on YouTube last year. There they are again, getting in the same fight. He's leaving. It's like she just cries and chases him. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It's so crazy.
That action is what.
Alright, everybody, this is my garden here in Chicago. Go to ChicagoMaribel.com. This one's dead.
So as long as you're
Amazon
trying,
failed,
there
another
is
Amazon
some
failed.
semblance of
This little guy here is sprouting up quite
I would
nicely.
say that you are becoming a little
And
bit more like Christ.
we're gonna try to put
But
it in a
you,
different
but you think Christ is God, right?
holder, see how big we can get it to grow.
So you're becoming like
There's
God.
another little succulent.
I mean,
These are all
isn't that
succulents. Our
yeah,
succulents
but
over
isn't
here
that
are
why all
pops.
religions worship their
I can't
gods so
believe
that
it.
you are more like them than
And
those people on earth?
there's
No,
only
I
social
don't
media
think so. Not all
justices. Oh,
religions.
are they still fighting? They're
Not
back at
all
it again?
religions, but I would say
Where do
that
they go to now?
having this idea of a god above you,
He's like, I'm gonna
or
punch you in the
gods from
face.
your perspective as an Indian,
I don't
No,
understand. Why can't you
I'm
just
not
get
a
right and just
Hindu.
call it a day? Like, why does the
or
man
whatever
have to
you are.
like also add to the drama?
You do
Can
worship those
anyone explain
figures
that to me? Like,
because
isn't that
they
kind
do
of
represent
gay?
a greater idea.
Maybe he just doesn't like women or something.
Or
Maybe he
a
doesn't like hot young chicks that are just like crying and
whether
want to
it's
just bang them.
fertility, whether it's all
He's like, I'm gonna punch you in your face if you keep talking to me.
But
Stop talking to me,
like
girl.
you could have Indian gods that
Alright, everybody, we're going to the
think
front of the
that
house, see if we can capture
anti-fertility gods, but
from
you
the
guys
other
have
angle. I think he may.
anti-fertility gods.
I told you I'm not a Hindu. I have no idea. I'm a Muslim. So, but I mean, we worship God just to like thank God or whatever, right? And just to worship Him, to let Him know that we are His servants and whatnot. Also, it helps. So there's this saying which roughly goes as praying is like keeping the cloth of faith clean. If you don't pray, the cloth gets dirtier and dirtier.
Yeah, so I don't understand what you don't understand about Christianity when it's similar in that respect.
No, I mean we can't be godlike. I mean that's like the biggest sin that you could ever do is try to be godlike or something.
I would argue that if you truly believe that, then you should break every commandment as much as humanly possible. You should be as dirty as humanly possible. You should be as disrespectful as humanly possible. But I don't think you would argue that, which means you more agree with me than you don't. Ironically.
No, but following the commandment.
Possible, you should murder as humanly possible. But I don't see Muslims advocating for that either, right? Except in certain.
But following the commandments doesn't make you
Wait,
godlike.
can you just agree with me like on that, or can you disagree with me on that point? Like, is the point of life to be as sinful, to be as harmful of a human being as humanly possible?
I had to figure out whether her vitals,
Or we can't
whether she was really going through something.
a greater,
I gave her a little bit of like, aspirin. Actually, I gave her an Excedrin,
to that
which
degree.
is aspirin.
Okay, can you repeat what you're saying? I'm sorry, your accent. Just
So, do you think the point of life is to be as murderous and rapist as humanly possible? To lie as
no, of course not. No.
Okay, then you are trying to be better as a fallen creature, actually. So you do agree with me, actually, that even though you say you disagree with me, actually you agree with me more than you think.
But what do you mean by a fallen creature?
People who can't be perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not interested in having a debate about Islam and Christianity, to be honest with you.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. The guy, whoever.
Read about it. Go read. There's like thousands of books on Christianity and analysis and all this stuff. You can go read those books.
Okay, fair enough, man. Don't get hyper, it's all.
Yeah, it's all right, exactly. So, go read. Yeah.
Hi, Gio. How is everyone?
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Yeah, long time no see.
Hi, Marsha. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Samia.
What's the topic here? We're talking about Christianity, Gio?
Yeah, PPL wanted to interrogate Christianity.
No, I was just trying to understand what he was saying. The last guy that was here, he asked a question and then he